Hello everybody and welcome back to the Andmore Bus Videos YouTube channel. I'm Andmore Bus Videos, otherwise known as Andmore Central, depending on what day of the week and what video you're watching. And welcome to Totnes Bus Station. As I promised in the previous videos, I didn't promise that the entirety of Totnes would reset. It always seems to do that when you're facing the other direction. That I did promise in the previous videos that I did. When we did the 35 last time, I kind of thought, oh, it'd be nice to see how this copes on the 1B, both through power on the hills and its acceleration. So I thought, well, we'll give it a go, and also remembering that the HOF file for this is possibly one of the only ones that works with a roller and the dot matrix number, I thought it was a win-win situation. So as you can see already on the front blinded up, I did blind it up to make sure it worked, and we are going to be driving the 1B service device instead of the 1A. We're going to do the 1B that is a clockwise circular of Totnes. As you can see, we are driving in the just recently after the takeover Transdev, Harrogate and District livery. There was more the livery adopted by Blazefield, but the livery utilised by Transdev shortly after the takeover. A few important bits to note with it is you can tell basically the logo and the lettering was the same. The only thing that changed upon takeover initially for the customer perception was the word Blazefield was removed and Transdev was added, and that was the idea with Burnley and Pendle. The idea with Blackburn, I believe it was Lancashire United, I think it was. Keighlin District, there was a blue variation of this, and Yorkshire Coastliner. So it was all of a very similar style. So they were all like that with Blazefield. They then replaced it with a Transdev name, and you can also tell it's a more recent variation of this livery with the newer style Metro. Believe it or not, they call it a Metro Sausage. Very, very strange name, but a Metro sort of ticket and passes sticker. So we'll get the vehicle all set up. Let's try that again. And we'll get our module in. I'm also going to put the arrows on because it has been a while since I've driven this route. And we're driving 1064. And we're doing the GT101. Oh, I've done that again, haven't I? Where I've clicked a button on that and it doesn't like it when I do that. So let's just try that again. I did it last time, didn't I? Remember. There we go. It's also making a louder thing this time. There we go. 1064 GT number 1. Leave that one blank. 1. Journey number 1. Error. 1. Loading fares. Excellent. So we will just go straight out because there's nobody waiting. Never is. Although I am going to just give it a second to load up. While we do, I'll show you the rear as well. For those of you from or who saw the takeover even for Harrogate and District, this will reminisce. And the idea, like with Keighley, was the red with blue, and it was Transdev Keighlin District. So really, really cool. And the vehicle itself that we're driving or trying to replicate is Y164HRN, one of the rather well-travelled Renowns in the fleet. This feels more like it, driving a YHRN with that indicator chirp. It feels right. There's something about it. I do wish the frames would pick up slightly though. So yes, I have been on 1064. There should be a video of this on the Andmore Bus Videos channel somewhere in the archives. It will be under Transdev, so do go and check it out. I believe it was on the 44 I had it, I believe. I definitely photographed it on the 44. So, because this one had quite an interesting life, it was with Harrogate. A number of the sister vehicles to this ended up at Keighley. I don't believe this one did, but in later life it was actually painted in a generic Transdev white livery that ended quite well. It was that 569 and 1092 were painted in white, with the Transdev logo at the rear and Transdev names on the side, back and front. And they were predominantly utilised as sort of float vehicles along the rest of the operation before the idea of the Pride of the North livery came along, and then quite a few of them ended up settling at different periods of time in York, because York at the time was an operation that they hadn't really established a brand on. They were changing the routes all the time, and they lost the university routes. A lot of it with York is heavily focused on tendered work that's a lot different to what Transdev as a whole does operate on. Transdev as a whole is very much commercial side with a little bit of funding. So York was very focused around tenders and winning contracts and things like that. So it was always fluid, always changing. That's why it took quite a while to establish a brand there. I mean, they had the Little Explorers. Some of you will remember them. They used to be the 22, 23, 24, that were the Knaresborough, Ripon, York services. I mean, they had the Tadfaster, they had the old 44 unibuses, and things kept changing, and buses came and went that were different liveries, because there was the idea that if the buses were painted incorrectly, regardless of age, they'd tend to scrap them. So the Renowns came along, did the three of them at different varying stages of time. And 1064 was one that lasted a fair bit, painted in white. It operated on the 44 service when it was just City to Acomb, before it became the 16 that's now operated by Connections buses. I believe that was roughly along the lines of the story of it, because it was the 16 with First, then First gave it up and it became part of the Transdev York 44 that was predominantly unibus between the city centre and the uni, but once one bus every half an hour extended, or I believe it was every hour, extended into Acomb via the what's it called? What's the name of the road? It was quite a tight housing estate, basically. So when they lost the unibus side, the initial 44 retained with its funding and utilised one bus, and that was regularly 1064. And 1064, I believe, also ended up on a few other bits and bobs and different jaunts and things. I think it did in the 181 when they took that over for a short period of time. I know that they did utilise some B10s on the 31X when they took it over from Stevenson's of Easingwold when they closed. And they lived a varying life, and then they adopted a few other random B10s as well over the period of time. And I do remember 1064 being there, because I do remember going on it on the 44. So, albeit back in the day with Harrogate, it was a lot better and more stable time for the vehicle. So I don't believe 1064 is still with us. I believe it was scrapped. I can't remember if it was accident related or something like that, but it definitely was scrapped. So the vehicle is no longer with us, but obviously we can still drive it in game. Now the lighting is totally opposite. Now that does look good, but the rest of it doesn't particularly bode as well as I would have hoped. But we can still get a nice screenshot in that angle. So we'll see how this copes up here, because I remember from what's the name of the map? The 347, 349's map. They're really, really tight roads, and the name of it has just totally escaped my mind. I know that map. Oh, there we go. Oh, the lighting's still a little bit out. Oh, that's a bit better. There we go. I remember from that, and we took this Renown on a school contract on there. I believe it was the school service, and it had to have a little bit of support getting up the hill. I mean, it weirdly started crawler mode out of nowhere on an even steeper gradient, but is what it is. Now, I'm really hoping that that blowing of a whistle was in game. It wasn't outside. If you also heard that, please do comment so I'm not going bonkers. I must admit, I really do miss going on these in all parts of the Transdev network. I do need to make a trip over to Lancashire. However, at the time that I'm filming this, have we got somebody? No, I just assumed I saw the guy there. Didn't really pay much attention, and assumed he was a bit closer to the stop than he was. But there's talk on the exact day that I'm filming this, that I believe is a week and a half before the video is going to release, because I've recorded a fair few of these en masse because I wanted an excuse to drive the Harrogate Repaint pack, because it looks really cool. And apparently the Burnley ones are coming to an end, if not by the time this is released, if not already withdrawn at the time, and it is a colossal shame. So really, really big shame if they are withdrawn. I mean, fully understandable as to why, because they've transferred solos from Keighley and they've got the spare Mellow Ultras and other random vehicles now on fleets, including in a high number of double-deckers. So they can get rid of the Renowns, but it would still be a colossal shame. Although at least we have all the repaints from Harrogate recollected in the game, and hopefully, if Amethyst Studios is watching, potentially we might be lucky enough to get a Keighley pack afterwards. So there we go. I think I might have scared that van driver slightly. The angle I took there was a little bit more ambitious than I thought, and still didn't hit the vehicle, but it was a little bit more ambitious. No, I think the more memorable B10s I remember is the ones at Keighley, such as sort of 1081, 1083, 1077, getting them on the 696, 697 that then became the 67, 68 that's now just on, and there was the 69 as well too, Oxenhope, and that's now just all the 67. I remember them on there, on the 62s, on the 66, on the old 760 that then became the 60. I had a V3.02 on that. I got photos of them somewhere on that route. On the 662, on all the Bronte buses, the old 500 back in the day, that's now the B3, the 66. Oh, come on, there we go, into gear, thank you. The old 664, 665 services as well. 664 used to be Stanbury, that's now not BB1, B1. And the 665 to Oakwith, that's now the B2. Remember, all of these routes had B10s on all of them, and photographed B10s on all of them as well. That was mainly for me where I remember the Transdev B10s, was Keighley. Although don't get me wrong, a good day out in York, just riding up and down on the B10s on the 44 was never an opportunity to be missed. The likes of 10, 12, 10, 13, 14, 16, and then there were some YHRNs, and I'm trying to rejig my memory as to what the regs of them were. Because it was 1076, and the likes of them, I think it was. They were very, very high. I'm sure they were 1070s. Definitely 1076 was one of them on the Unibus. I remember that very, very well. I'll have to look through my photo archive. I think photo and video archive I'll have to have a look through. That's a bold move by that truck. Now, where is the lighting? Oh, that'll do. We'll get a nice screenshot of it there, and then also to just spruce things up a little bit. We'll get a nice, even though the lamppost is in the totally incorrect direction, and I left the route arrows up, so we'll get a nice hill shot. But yeah, they are. What was interesting with the Unibus B10s is after the 44 was withdrawn, despite the fact that they all had internal refurbishments, Wi-Fi routers fitted, USB ports fitted. Despite all of that, none of them saw service after the 44 Unibus contract finished. It was really, really strange. Not even into the Acomb to City Short era. They just withdrew them en masse and never painted them, never utilised them again. And it was such a shame at the time. Really, really was such a shame. Especially saying that at the time they were then also spending the same amount of money refurbishing some older B10 BLEs for the Valley Line 22, and they got an identical internal refurbishment, identical USB ports, and identical Wi-Fi. So it would have made a much more wiser move to simply repaint the vehicles and redeploy them, especially saying that the likes of 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, unfortunately there is a story behind why I'm not saying 15 and that, but those were all O2 plates, so those were a lot newer than the X-Regs that they were refurbishing at the time. So it would have made a lot more sense financially to utilise them and on vehicle fleet age as well. But no, all of the YDO2s got withdrawn. Most of them got stored at Intac. I believe the odd one was stored at Burnley for a while. I believe 1016 was at Burnley for a bit. Never used there, and then one by one they all got sent to scrap. It was such a shame. As much as I'm not a particular fan of scrubbing that rear tyre on the curb, I'd have rather done that than hit the van that was coming towards us. Because it is a tight gap to get through, is that one? It is a tight gap to get through. Especially because you don't want to take it too wide on the mini roundabout, because of the entrance to the right that the car driver, the AI driver, should we say, wouldn't be able to see you there. I mean, even in real life, they wouldn't be able to see you because they'd be looking at their clearance to the right, not dead ahead at this vehicle that's straggling 2 lanes going into a mini roundabout. And what I also liked about the Keighley ones is until the end, the Keighley ones still had their original interiors. Except 1095 that arrived from Lancashire United, in a refurbished state with refurbished headlights that you saw a few videos back, and the refurbished blue-seated interior. The rest of them kept their original old-style maquette, just like this, with the headrests from the third row from the back down, and the carpet on the roof and all of that. And they kept all of that to the very end. So they were just absolutely tremendous vehicles, really, really nice. Really, really nice buses, and they were just lovely and original. I mean, 1064 kept its original interior right to the very end from memory. I will have to check my video, but I believe when I sampled it in white, it still had its original interior. I believe 569 had its original interior but didn't have a carpeted roof, and 1092 I believe had a refurbished interior at that time, and it definitely has one now because it is a Valley Line bus as we speak. But I understand that it did have a refurbished interior, I think, at that early stage as well. If not, it was... The depth of field on this mirror is not doing me any good, especially when the cars are going that fast. Because that red one just pops out of nowhere on that mirror. That's always then why you check your mirror, kids, before you pull out of the bus stop. So always check the mirror. It's what it's there for. They are just lovely buses of the B10s, lovely vehicles. I can't imagine they're particularly cheap to maintain and run in preservation, unfortunately. I know a few people that have had B10s in preservation in the past, and I do understand that they aren't particularly the cheapest to maintain, and I understand that they are rather time consuming. So it is a shame. It is a shame with these buses. So if you're watching this in the same way that I'm driving it and thinking, oh, it'd be nice to have a B10 in real life, it's definitely a vehicle that you would need a sufficient budget in order to own. It's not something that you can sort of just purchase and hope for the best on. You do have to have I mean, with any preserved vehicle, you have to have a budget, but it's one of these that you do have to be doubly sure you've got that budget. So it's on the slightly more expensive end of the financial dimensions of spending on buses in preservation. You do get some of them that are slightly cheaper, some of them that are slightly more expensive. So it's always the way with anything, really. But love the buses regardless. And as I say, I mean, although we've lost the majority of these B10s, and they will continue to get withdrawn in recent times, in the near future rather than distant future, unfortunately. We'll just pull into the 35 stand, doesn't really matter. We've done pretty okay throughout the entire route. We've run on time throughout. So, it's quite nice to know that we now have this lovely bus in OMSI 2, the lovely Payware Studio Polygon Renown, and we also have this lovely repaint pack to reflect the old Harrogate liveries. And hopefully coming up we might get some more as well. as hopefully the proper YHRN model gets released. There we go, there was the clonk. We'll park it this way around this time. I can't bother to spin it around, if I'm honest. So there we go. So that was the 1B Totnes Circular. It was quite a nice run round and quite a nice casual trip, and a nice little trip down memory lane on the YHRNs. That is definitely a diminishing batch of Renowns at the moment in the UK. Possibly also part of the group of Renowns, very, very small number still in regular public service. So we do have that. So I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have done, do be sure to click that like button so that more people can find it and enjoy like you have. And if you haven't already, do be sure to subscribe to the And More Plus Videos YouTube channel for more content like this from the simulation section. Yes, I do have quite a few more of the Harrogate repaint pack videos planned from MFS Studios as I continue my trip further into the history, to the origins of these vehicles. So do stick around for those, and do send in your route and map suggestions for where I should drive them as well. So do keep sending them in the comments below. You can also find on the And More Bus Videos YouTube channel an archive of over 5,000 backseat and engine-focused public transport videos from the UK and beyond. With buses, trams, trains and more, there's something on there for everyone, with additional 21 videos added each week. And if you look in the Transdev playlist folder, you will find quite a lot of videos of these B10s, and I believe including a video of this specific one that we've driven here in York, if I remember correctly, on the 44 service to Acomb. So do check it out, and do also check out my main channel And More Central for some more real-life bus and public transport industry review videos. There are a few related to the Transdev B10s, so they're worth a watch as well. But for now though, I really hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you all in the next video, mate. Goodbye for now. Bye.